Looks like everybody's in. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our quarterly Ancient Wines Club member tasting. Tonight we'll be taking you through this is actually our 43rd club, as you can see there. It's along the Royal Highway, wines of the Via Regia. So this is a topic like many of our club topics that we've been talking about doing for, I don't know, a couple of years at least. It actually, it follows really nicely, I think, on our last one, which was Wines of the Steppe. So those of you who've been with us for at least 3 months now, and that one was basically a migration of people's ideas and goods from east to west, from the kind of the heartland of wine all the way through the heartland of Europe, following along the basically what's the northern edge of the Alps mountain range, which then, many thousands of years ago, as now, served as a really convenient horizontal corridor for people's ideas, goods. So this one is, I was thinking about it a little bit. I don't think it's the latest chronological club we've done. I think maybe we went a little bit later, at least in some of it with the
Mm,
wine club we had on Venice. I don't know if you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but at
mhm,
least maybe the tail end of this. But it's definitely one of the later chronological ones that we've done.
mhm,
As I mentioned, the road itself is, I mean, the corridor itself goes back many thousands of years to the migrations of the Indo-European peoples, but the actual road, the first reference we have to a Via Regia in this area is in the 13th century CE. And that's it's taking sections of basically Roman roads, taking sections of dirt paths, whatever was there, and then formalizing it into a taxable highway. So this was 1255. The road was became, I guess, kind of a de facto Via Regia under Charlemagne. So end of the 8th century, beginning of the ninth century CE. So, quite a bit earlier than we actually have a reference to the name of it, but it was being used as yeah, basically a toll road. So, merchants, travelers, pilgrims, as Dana will talk about a little bit, were using this highway, and they were exchanging basically a toll for security. So against
mm,
brigandage and whatnot on the road. So that's why the idea of a via regia was that the security of the road was guaranteed by the king, and any kind of offense that was committed on the road was seen as a personal affront to the emperor, to the king. So that's the idea. Via regia, of course, in Latin means the royal road. So by the time of what we're going to talk about in this club, this road extended out from its original heartland, which was basically Germany from Frankfurt to Leipzig, in these two major market towns, and extended all the way west to Santiago de Compostela, of course, one of the major pilgrimage sites of the world in Spain, and then east to Ukraine, so to Kiev, which is, of course, the that terminus was featured very prominently in our last club, and extended over 4,500 kilometers, that whole distance. So there are a number of other roads. If you got the club right app, we have the map on there. I'll flip to it here as well, just for a second. This you can see there are a couple of branch roads here. In particular the Via Imperii, which we're kind of already have our sights set on at some point for a future club. So stay tuned on that. But I think that gives us a little bit of a sense of what's happening here. We treated this as, I don't think we've done quite this format before, but we treated this almost like a guidebook. We wanted to give you some of the sites that if and when we have the opportunity to take an Ancient Wines tour of this region, some of the sites that we thought would be great to visit. So I think not, a few of us have been to a couple of these places, but that was kind of the idea of it. So as usual, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, or save them till the end. We'll have time for a couple of questions. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who's going to take us through our first of the wines. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so for this club, we kind of went pan-European. Obviously, it's definitely important to kind of capture the fact that this is a trade route where you have important stops along the way. Um, and in this case, the Loire Valley in France was one of them. And so um, the wine that we chose to represent the Loire Valley here, this is the 2021 Domaine Joël Delaunay. This is from Touraine, near the city of Tours, and there's a lot of wine made from this region that is actually more on the white wine, but I was actually looking for a red wine from this region. So this is 100% Gamay, and it's made in a style from that's made from a semi-carbonic maceration style. So that what that typically does is, you have the grapes that are basically it's partially fermenting kind of within their own skins. You throw them all in a big hopper, and basically it's kind of an anaerobic fermentation there. And so you have freshness is retained is really kind of the key thing to understand when you use that. It's a technique that is used a lot with Gamay. You see it in Beaujolais as well. So when you get those kind of like punchy, fruity, sometimes like almost like lightly tropical flavors in Beaujolais, but in this case, it's carbonically macerated, so you're not going to get like quite as much of those like again like tutti fruity kind of flavors. You get a nice balance here. So for me, this wine was really lovely. It kind of punched well above its weight class for the price. It's a really great bistro style red. Whenever I use that term, I always mean like it's a lunch wine. You could do with like French fries and steak and just like something simple. I mean, like that's where my mind always goes for like a classic like French bistro lunch is steak frite. But honestly, I mean, like for a red that you can kind of pop open with a little bit of refinement, but also has that old world charm, this definitely kind of flew that flag very, very well. So lots of those kind of like cherries, raspberries, kind of a little bit of a little bit of kind of the spice and earth around there. But overall, it was just a really approachable wine. It's done 100% in stainless steel tanks, and all family estate. Just really kind of like a humble French red. And for me, kind of captured that sense of just kind of like countryside, sort of rural conviviality that I imagine travelers probably along the road would stop and have wine at a tavern or something like that and at an inn along the way. And this is definitely, that kind of wine. It's like a nice, doesn't need to be overly impressive, but in terms of, it's oak or, big extraction, but all on its own, it's very, very charming. Yeah. Could also be chilled a little bit as well, actually, because we're obviously coming into some hot months. I would definitely say that Gamay is a very good candidate for wine being that take well to a chill. And I'll pass it back to you guys.
Thanks for that, Ryan. I like the idea of this being a wine that could be quaffed along the Via Regia. As Jeff was saying, this is not just a trade and transmission of ideas over time, but also sacred pilgrimage routes. And Tours was actually one of the first in the fifth century with the tomb of oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. Saint Martin of
Yeah, same amount of
Saint
tours.
Saint Martin of Tours. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked actually in previous clubs about the importance of Tours as a cross point where these north-south running routes that are going to places like Paris and the north are meeting the rivers and are heading up to Paris, and the Via Regia running through this area. Um, and that actually going back to the time of ancient Rome. And Saint Martin actually was a Roman soldier who famously converted to Christianity. He has all these stories that are associated with him. That are tied to him being so generous that he tore his cloak in half and gave half of it to a beggar on the street. And I'll ask Jeff to check me on my Latin because, as club members know, my focus is quite a bit earlier. But there's even a connection between the word cloak, kappa, and the word chapel. So in the fifth century, right, this shrine that held the kappa was visited and revered, and that gives us our modern word. That shrine was so famous that it gave its name to our modern word of chapel. Um, wine, of course, being important for the sacraments, also important for folks that are traveling. Since the Neo-Syrian period, we see folks and attestations of people mixing wine with water to purify local water sources, and that would have been true also in the medieval period. Um, so Tours is really the center of pilgrimage, the center of trade and commerce. It gets eclipsed more or less in the 11th century by Santiago de Compostela on our far western terminus of the Via Regia. It's actually kind of not on the Regia itself, but it's a part of that network that Jeff was mentioning before. Also tied, to a saint, in this case, Saint James, who was said to have been put into a stone boat in Jerusalem, and then that boat, under its own power, um, you know, miraculously makes its way into the sea and finds itself on the Galatian coast. Right? There are all these wonderful stories about how these cities become incredibly important. Venice has that story, with Saint Mark, for example. How these saints, quote unquote, choose these European cities and they become these centers of pilgrimage. But traveling there today, this is a bucket list for many people. I've talked to folks who have made the pilgrimage, a bunch of different routes to get to Santiago de Compostela even today. And if you go there today, you can actually see something that was there in the 11th century in the Cathedral de Santiago, the Botto and this is a giant censer, right? It's a huge, over 100 pounds. This thing is just giant incense burner, and it's swung by 8 priests. They're called the tiroboleros, and they swing this thing through the transept, and it just goes like 60 kilometers an hour back and forth. And it's said that the prayers of the faithful are lifted upon the rising clouds of incense. But well, there's a tradition that actually originally was used to mask the smell of all these dirty, smelly pilgrims who would fill the transept of the cathedral. So some interesting stuff that if you travel there today, you can still see. Back to you guys.
Picture of the sacred and the profane, right, Dana?
There you go. Precisely. And again, I hope you guys can hear me okay. I apologize. I
Yeah,
got stuck in traffic, so I'm winging it. I'm winging it remotely coming back from an archaeological site. So hello
you're,
from the field, everybody.
you're great. Yeah. All right, Jeff, you want to move on to line two? There we go. So number two. So as Dana was just mentioning, the Santiago de Compostela. So along the Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain, in Basque Country. So we're near San Sebastian. If anyone's ever traveled up there, is a region called Shakili. Shakili was pretty famous for landing in the U.S. Maybe let's say 10, 15 years ago. People discovered it and kind of went crazy for it. It got written up a lot in the New York Times as being this light, white, spritzy, kind of, low alcohol, like 9.5, 10, 11% alcohol wine that sort of took, the Somme world by storm, as being something that was kind of fun and just kind of and unique. Not Vinho Verde from Portugal. It's more complex than that. They had this whole kind of thing about that. And so this region kind of really got focused on these lighter white wines made from a grape called Hondrabi Zuri. That was again like kind of had a bit of a fad, if you will, in the wine world. This wine is made from a slightly more inland valley, the Valle de Arrastaria, by a winemaker named Juanjo Telaeche. And this is actually a red wine. And so this is 100% Hondrabi Belza, which they use to make the rosé versions of Shakuli. But this is like I said, a still red wine. So something that I was actually really excited to find and to try because they're quite rare. And I will say, like in all of my career buying wines, I've only ever had a few red wines from Shakili. There's just not a lot of it exported because partly of that confusion between like the name and the what people expect from it. Similar to Portuguese Vinho Verde, a lot of people see Portuguese Vinho Verde and they go, "Oh, it's that $5 bottle from Trader Joe's that's like spritzy and light and like that sort of thing." Vinho Verde is actually just the name of the region. So there are red wines from Vinho Verde. There are rosés and still wines that aren't spritzy from Vinho Verde. Just a little aside there. So similar sort of naming issue where one wine becomes so popular that it represents a region, and then cha people associate that name with the region, even though it's the name, not the name of the wine. You know, it's the name of the place. So, but in this case, this is like I said, 100% Hammurabi Belza, and for me, this wine actually was I really loved the kind of like spice profile in this wine. There's like my notes had this like smoked plum kind of element to it that I just kind of kept coming back to. But a nice like mid palate to it that comes from neutral oak aging, um, and it just ended up as kind of like a, you know, again a good example of a more cool climate red that still had some good concentration to it. Fun facts about the winemaker Juanjo Teleeche. He was a shepherd as well as a the local village priest as well. So, you know, fully completing that Santiago de Compostela kind of connection there with this wine. But yeah, I think it's a again, it's one of those ones that I was excited to find, which is that's why we do this, is we're always kind of like trying to find these little corners of the world that's you know, that time forgets. So yeah, the label has definitely some prehistoric like depictions on it, and I looked everywhere. I could not find specifically if it's from some of the caves in that Valle de Arastaria. I believe it is. But I didn't get any information on how old it is, but obviously they look, you know, pretty prehistoric and, you know, kind of cave painting era. So, yeah, I used my best efforts to find it, but I'm going to email the importer and see if they have any, you know, other information, and I'll probably message the winemaker as well. So, but yeah, some fun kind of, you know, ancient history on the label is always appreciated by us.
Brian, this is one of the, I mean, this is one of the smokiest wines I think I've ever tried. So like
Yeah.
what your reference with the smoked plum. My sister-in-law was actually like, this almost tastes like a Highland Scotch. Kind of in a good way. I mean, they
Edie.
really enjoyed it. It just
Yeah.
tastes really interesting. Like I don't know if I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I when I first started tried it, I was like, is this because you know we're here in California, there we have problems with wildfires here, and wildfires cause smoke taint on wines. And I remember when I tasted it, I was like, is this smoke tainted? And then
Doesn't taste
as
like.
I let it
Yeah.
yeah, as I let
Mm.
it breathe, it definitely kind of opened up and like showed more layers, and it didn't have that kind of bitter, like kind of I'm blanking on the chemical term that the smoke actually imparts in the wine, but there's kind of this like bitterness, stringency that smoke gives you the smoke flavor, but then it actually doesn't ever really integrate with the wine. It sort of sits on top of it, whereas this has like a smoky, savory flavor to it, but it's integrated with the other fruits in the wine, and it's integrated with, you know, with the palate and the finish and the kind of complexity there. So,
That's what I
so yeah,
but yeah, it was really interesting. It was, I mean, it's very, very
yeah.
good. Just be an excellent wine for kind of grilled foods. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. When I tasted this,
Mm.
I was like, "Whoa! I'm busting out the Weber. It's barbecue season coming up. I am gonna absolutely get some, you know, get some wood chips from some sort of exotic wood and like smoke some cool piece of meat or and some vegetables or something like that." Because I just immediately thought that this was like a very, you know, gastronomic wine.
Mm,
So
sure.
yeah, pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. For me, that's the first time I've ever had a red from Chocolate. I don't know about you.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think it's maybe the second or the third that I've ever had, but it's the first I've had that I actually really liked. So
I never saw a chocolate red come through the through the VB days when, you know, we were all buying and selling together. Yeah.
yeah,
This is really special and fun.
yeah.
And of course, we had the white, which I haven't tried personally yet, but we had the white as one of our special offers this wine. This
Y-
Ryan, I'll talk about.
Yeah, I can maybe lead us through that one at the end or a little bit later. I think yeah as well. Yeah. Cool. I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yep. And this is just a picture here. We have an extra picture. Dana, if you wanted to say a word or not, this is from our from your
Oh
section.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, back to Santiago de Compostela. If you, you know, were to go there today, I think some of our members actually have been. And when we actually lead another Ancient Wine Guys tour, we got a whole list now. So maybe this will be our trip in 2035. We'll see where we are on the calendar with this. But a modern day view of the Cathedral of Santiago and the tomb of Saint James. Interestingly enough, too, that word Compostela, it kind of it's Compostela. It's like the field of stars, right? And this has to do with the story of the founding of this. There was apparently a sky fall, and some folks have even said that there might have been a meteorological event that was tied to this in some fashion. They've tried to trace that back, but regardless, the story is that once St. James' body arrived on the Galician shore, it was discovered by a hermit who followed, this starfall or skyfall, giving it its name again, Santiago de Compostela. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah. So jumping back from Spain, so we're going to be moving eastwards here, and for the next two wines, and so we I was looking for something from the kind of the heartland of Germany, close to Leipzig, and so here from the Rheinhessen, we have the 2024 Weingut Werther Vintage Scheurebe is the grape. So it's 100% Scheurebe, a grape that we have featured, I believe, once before. It's one of my favorite German varieties. If you're at all a fan of German varieties that go beyond Riesling, you'll quickly learn that many of them are derived from Riesling, or cousins of Riesling, or somehow related to Riesling. And Scheurebe is one of those grapes. It's a cross of Riesling with a grape called Bouquet Traube or Bouquet Blanc in French. And for me, it has all of that kind of energy and brightness of Riesling. It doesn't tend to go quite as sweet. It's usually made as a dry wine. I haven't really seen any like semi-sweet or like late harvest Scheurебes myself. I'm sure they exist, but I have not seen them exported. But it has like it has the complexity of Riesling, but you definitely get a little more texture on the palate typically I find, and just a little more approachability when they're younger. For me, this one had a lot of just that nice kind of like kind of crisp green apples and pears and all the kind of little bits of tropical elements to it. But also just kind of some easygoing, not like absurdly high racing acidity. Like the ability to where you could just kind of have a glass of it. You're not, your teeth aren't vibrating like some of these, younger Rieslings that feel like they can feel like licking a 9-volt battery sometimes, when they're young. So this definitely has a approachable character that I really appreciated. Weingut Wirte Vindisch is they're an all organic estate as well as biodynamic estates. And so, very kind of minimal intervention in the vineyard, as well in the cellar. And yeah, it's just again a great example of a wine that's kind of off the beaten path of Germany in terms of style. Again, a little bit more of you know, a little more of a table white in some ways, where you could definitely you could serve this with maybe with a little bit wider variety of foods than your standard Riesling. So yeah, I would just say treat it maybe a little bit more uh, open-mindedly than you would your typical Riesling. And this
The
is actually, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dana. Go ahead, Dana.
Oh, I was just going to say we certainly put it to its test in that regard this week because we ordered a bunch of Thai food and this was chilling in the fridge and it had been such a long week. We're like, okay, we gotta cut into this thing and yeah, with the chicken pad Thai, it was actually delicious and I think you're right, like the balanced acidity. I haven't had a lot of shoyu and I was actually kind of unfamiliar till we talked about it, the connection to Riesling, and had thought I caught a little bit of that, sort of phenolic beach ball on the nose. And I
Yeah,
was like, wait a minute, like this is from my blind tasting notes. Like, hold on
yeah,
a second, this is like, but this is a Riesling. So this was a really fun wine and educational for me.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, all roads lead back to Riesling in Germany. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty much how it works.
Mm.
Yeah, no, and like that kind of like little extra texture and softness. This one is aged in large like 1,200 liter oak, like neutral oak barrels. So
Mm.
it's it's given time to kind of like round out a little bit as well. So it's definitely, which is they do that for some reasons as well. But I think in this case it helps to kind of again kind of keep it something that you could enjoy it on its own, but I think it shines really well with like you said, Dana, like food that has a little bit of sweetness to it or something like
Mm.
that, or a little bit of spice does really nicely.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, love that wine. So I'll pass it back to you guys for the next slide.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
that
it's to you,
that was
Jeff.
featured
Yeah.
in our wines of I can't remember the title of the club, but the hybrid wine club we did. That
That was
Mm.
Beasts and Berries wines on
Mhm.
hybrids, yeah. So on crossings in wine and in monsters and mythology. So if you remember the
Mm.
one we did, the Chimera, we had, I think we had the Hydra, maybe the Centaur, if I remember correctly.
Centaurs as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So but yeah, this was definitely that was the other Sugar Rabbit that we did in the past. That was the Katharina Wexler Sugar Rabbit. That
Oh,
wine was excellent. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I forgot we did the short river for that. Yeah,
love
that's
that
right.
wine. Yep.
Cool.
reaching back into the archives. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. That was Club
So,
25.
yeah,
Been a while.
Yeah.
that was a while ago. It was a while ago. Time.
Yeah.
So our next section here is the German heartland, which this is a lithograph, as you can see here, of Frankfurt. So you have the actually the Alta Brücke there pictured in the right hand part of the sort of redundant pictured in the right hand part of the picture of the right hand part of the lithograph there. We thought this was a really fun image because the Alta Brücke actually still is still there. It was partially destroyed during World War II and was rebuilt, but you can actually go across it nowadays. It's graced by a statue of the Emperor Charlemagne, whom I mentioned. So this is not the biggest river on the Via Regia. That honor goes to the Rhine River, which of course runs from the Alps south to north through Germany. So this was the biggest natural obstacle, right? There weren't any major mountain ranges here. We were not going over the Alps. We're not going over any of the major mountain ranges in Eastern Europe. But the Rhine was a significant barrier, right? So Charlemagne actually did construct a bridge over the Rhine, a 750-meter long wooden bridge, 813. Well, it was finished in 813. It took many years to build, and then it unfortunately burned down the same year it was finished. So that's a disadvantage of building a bridge out of wood. And so after that, during the entire lifespan of the Via Regia, as in its iteration here as a pilgrimage and merchant trail during the Middle Ages, the bridge was never rebuilt. So the empire, Charlemagne's empire, as I'm sure you know, basically disintegrated over time, and so there wasn't the kind of central authority and resources to rebuild it. So from that point on, from 813, when the bridge burned down onward, for the next many centuries, the crossing was made by way of boats and barges. So that was the end of the bridge. This is the River Main, which goes through Frankfurt, which is just to the east of. If we go back to the map here for a second, if you're interested, the Mainz was just to the west. So the Rhine runs through Mainz, and the Main River runs through Frankfurt, which is what this, as I mentioned before, what this bridge is over. It's called the Alta Brücke, the old bridge. And Frankfurt was a major stopping point, kind of a recharging center and a huge merchant town, basically a huge Marktplatz, as they call it in German. And this is where where goods came in, where and central trading took place. Not quite as big as I understand as the one in Leipzig to the east. But this was also near from our, kind of interest to us on the wine side, this was near the Rheingau, which Ryan could speak to this more, but is one of, if not the most prestigious wine region in Europe, in Germany. Well, one of the most in Europe, but definitely in Germany, and the heartland of, a heartland of Riesling. So at this point, we don't have evidence that Riesling itself was being grown, but we do have the early kind of progenitors of Pinot Noir, which Spätburgunder in German was being brought in here, and it wasn't very far for that wine to have traveled from its heartland in Burgundy. So this was a major wine town as well as a major stopping point for travelers on the Via Regia. And then moving east, we would hit Leipzig, which had the biggest, I think, if not the biggest, one of the biggest kind of centralized marked Marktplätze, I think would be the plural in German. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there in Leipzig, there was the it was made a tax-free sort of special, given special privileges by Emperor Maximilian. I have to look at my notes for his name, but 1497, Emperor Maximilian the First. So imperial market rights basically outlawed competing trade fairs within 100 kilometers. So it was essentially a monopolized trading center, and that added to its prestige and value. And if you're in, which we hope to be at some point in Leipzig, you can visit one of the oldest wine bars in Europe, Auerbach's Cellar, which we thought this would be really fun to kind of do a kind of hybrid literary slash wine tour, because this wine bar was visited by Goethe and featured in Faust. So if that isn't a sort of nice marriage of literature and wine, I don't know what it is. So yeah,
Wines of Faust could be fun.
that could be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
would
We've
be
done
really
Inferno.
fun.
We've done
We
Dante's
have.
Inferno.
We've
Like
done Dante's Inferno.
we've been down there.
Do you know, with all this banding around Charlemagne, I don't think we've done a standalone Charlemagne club
we haven't.
Yeah.
either.
It's been discussed. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we gotta think about that one. So stay tuned. Stay tuned, wine club members. More to come.
And then another just sort of anecdote on this side, which we put in the write-up as well, but is worth reiterating, that they had um the basically a block party to celebrate the coronation of the new emperor in Frankfurt, called the again the German here, Gerechtigkeitsbrunnen, which is great German hybrid word, speaking of hybrid, combination between justice and fountain, so the justice fountain. And basically they made the fountain pour out wine. Okay, so it was a pretty fun way to celebrate the coronation of the new emperor. So and with that happy thought, I'll turn it over to back to Ryan to give us our fourth club wine, which is a Blaufränkisch.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so the club wine number four was the 2021 Wenninger Blaufränkisch. It's from the Burgenland in Austria. So the reason that we picked this wine actually is actually because partly the name of the variety Blaufränkisch is also known as Lemberger. And Lemberger, or I should say Lemberg, is actually was actually a town in Austria, but it's also the same name as the medieval name of the city of Lviv, which was in actually, excuse me, in western modern day Ukraine, which represented one of the easternmost points of the Via Regia. Kiev actually was kind of like the end point, as Jeff mentioned, but Lviv slash Lemberg was also one of those trade and destinations, as well as starting points of the Via Regia. So I was looking for something. Actually, I was looking. They make Blaufränkisch slash Lemberger in that region of Ukraine now, but we got some Ukrainian wines for the last club. I tried desperately to get some more from that Transcarpathian region of Western Ukraine for this club. Unfortunately, there's very, very few in the country, and I might have to go to Ukraine to go get some for the next time. So the but the wine here actually, so again, Blaufränkisch, one of the interesting parts about the name of that, so it means blue Frankish, basically the Frankish part actually refers to the Charlemagne era Frankish Empire. So you actually, or Kingdom Empire, yeah, whatever you want to call it. And so there's kind of like this connection there in both names of the variety, and that drew us to this wine. So about the wine itself, this is a pretty classic style of Blaufränkisch that you would find in Austria in some of these, kind of wine tavern, like Heurega wine taverns that are like kind of dotted all over Austria. It's juicy and fresh, and it has this nice kind of like, cranberry pomegranate kind of like cracked pepper sort of tone to it. Again, I was thinking very much like summer red. Like I need a summer red. Actually, when I was tasting this wine with the vendor, you can't tell from the photo, but we're actually sitting at a picnic bench like outside in a park. And he met me out at a park because I was like, hey, it's a really nice day. I don't want to be tasting wine inside. I'm not gonna try all these samples in some like dark, stuffy room. Come meet me in this park. And and the wine just absolutely just kind of shone was showing very, very well out there outside and just kind of feeling like, just a humble again kind of expression. But this is the style that you definitely find in like 1 liter bottles sometimes. But I would say Veninger's expression is a little bit more complex. You definitely get some of those kind of like rose petal and kind of elements of, sort of lightly floral herb tones to it that definitely make it a good food pair. For me, my mind immediately went to like a chicken paprikash kind of thing, something like that. So there's a little bit of like something tomatoey could obviously do very well with a lot of Italian food and pastas, that kind of stuff, because it kind of reminds me in a weird roundabout way of some, very light Sangiovese type wine, something like that. Has some of that kind of same like red fruit core to it, but with like all kinds of fun little exotic things around the edges. Um, but yeah, this was just again, kind of just a delightful, easygoing as well. Summer red. That's I loved the all the connections that I kind of found about the name. And it is along. I mean, that part of Austria also basically along the Via Regia as well, even though wasn't specifically the hub that I was referring to.
So the trivia question for today is how many of these countries played in today's World Cup?
Yeah.
Wasn't really planned out that way, but this kind of, pan-European club actually was extremely well timed with that. We had definitely had yesterday was France, today was Spain. Germany was I think it was yesterday too, or the day
Yeah.
before. Definitely Austria
Hmm.
today is
Yeah.
But we
Switzerland's tonight. Yeah.
yeah.
Serbia, US was yesterday, right? Yeah.
Or Bosnia.
Well,
Bosnia, sorry. Yeah, not Serbia.
yeah, it's
Um,
just coincidence, but
mhm.
I might do a double feature on this because actually I think we might have not included the slide for the special offer wines. Am I correct, Jeff? That we
yeah,
need to
I didn't
talk to
put
those as well.
slide into that. I
That's
forgot.
perfect because I actually have the white, the Tantaco white. If you want, I can run through that one, and then unless you want to finish up on a last piece there.
We
Yeah, why don't
can,
we
we're
do
gonna,
Dana's selection and then we'll come back to the
Sounds perfect. Didn't know if we had, yeah, sounds great.
that's perfect. Yeah, we can kind of continue our journey eastward from Leipzig and into Poland and finally into what is modern Ukraine and our terminus at Kiev. Um, so to begin, one of the cities that we focused on was Krakow, which becomes the royal capital of Poland in the well, kind of end of the 12th century into the 13th century. And similar to what Jeff was saying, I mean, it's very interesting when we look at these cities, they really command whether it's tours, whether it's um, you know let's think of these others, the command of river routes that are running north south that allow um, goods to be brought from the hinterland to the Via Regia at these centralized locations and then distributed and moved, right? It's a really powerful economic concept that drives trade and also taxation, right? And this was true of Krakow as well. Instead of the marketplace that Jeff was describing, you had the version, the Polish version, which was this massive market, this medieval market called the Rynek Glony. This was the largest medieval market in Europe. Talking like 40,000 square feet, and in that market, there was a big section called the Sukenice, or the cloth hall, where you would have had vendors selling everything from, well, cloth, no surprise there, but salt that was making its way from the Atlantic and mined in the Baltic, Baltic amber, leather, spices coming from the Mediterranean, right? Because now we're getting closer and closer to the east. So Krakow was an incredible powerhouse when it came to trade and the exchange of commerce and ideas. Um, Traveling there today, you can still see the this market square and visit the Basilica of Saint Mary, which is built into the corner of the square. And as then today, you can still listen for the hourly trumpet calls that would allow folks to know the time and to base their commerce and entry and exit into the city off of that. So I went to Krakow as a young boy, being half Polish, and have many fond memories, although maybe not as specific as I'd like. And I could see us heading back there on an Ancient Wine Guys tour at some point as well. Um, the connection between Krakow and Kiev, of course, was a strong and important one. Kiev really kind of served as the eastern terminus for the Via Regia. We have basically the Baltic and all of Europe to the west, and really Constantinople and all the trade routes and access to the east expanding from there. And Kiev really saw itself, in the 10th century. This is the story of Princess Olga of Kiev, who was a princess of the Kiev Rus. In 10th century, she's betrayed, and ends up basically coaxing all of her enemies into the city, uh, to a party, and then executes all of them. So she's this sort of historical figure held out, the early days. She converts to Christianity, and this is Orthodox Christianity, and becomes a legendary figure in the city, which really, again, models itself as sort of a mirror to Constantinople, both religiously and politically. They do this in terms of, erecting churches and monasteries, but also things like what you're seeing here, which is the Golden Gate of Kiev. This was built in the 11th century and is a, direct sort of, um, not an affront, but a nod to the Golden Gate of Constantinople. Just as Constantinople has Hagia Sophia, similarly, Kiev in the 11th century built the Saint Sophia Cathedral, which is similar in its style and approach too. Um, Also, as a center of sort of Orthodox Christianity and learning, around this time, a center called Petrsk Lavra, which is essentially, referring to the caves, this Church of the Caves. This is a complex that was began in the 11th century, but has expanded up until today. If you're thinking of Kiev and you're thinking of these churches with these beautiful golden domes, this is what we're talking about. The scriptorium, the studies there, the hermitage sites, the monastic order, just incredibly important culturally, religiously, and serves as a symbolic heart of Kiev even to today, which unfortunately is also why it became a target, just basically this month, or sorry, last month. I think it was June 14th, 15th, when a Russian drone flew into the roof and set it on fire. So um, these symbols are lasting and important, and heritage and history are always political. So it was a very unfortunate incident that didn't really make the news. Sorry, not Eric. What am I saying? Ryan's current work with the embassy at Kiev. When he was saying that he would go to Ukraine to pick up wines, by the way, that wasn't a joke. He will do it for you. Um,
Yes. There's there's a potential that the consul general of Ukraine, and we've been, I'm just giving a little aside here. Thanks Dana for
yeah,
the segue there. But we've been
yeah.
we've been talking about how we can get more Ukrainian wines here in the U.S.
Hmm.
So stay tuned on that. There might be some more work that the Ancient Wine guys are involved with and helping out with, getting more ancient varieties and unique wines from Ukraine, imported and distributed here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So
So
TBD,
keep.
but may involve
Mhm.
may involve going there at some point. So
And a big thank you to our Ancient Wine members. Kiev is a kind of a perfect place to sort of end our journey, both because it is the far eastern terminus of the Via Regia, but also is tied into, well, current politics, but also a big thank you to our club members in the last club who ordered a bunch of the special offer wines. We were able to pass some of that on in terms of, donation and a really good cause across the wine to support Ukraine and support Ukrainian winemakers. So much more of that to come. And a big thank you to Ryan again for lining that up.
yeah, thanks, Dana. Absolutely. Yeah, I think in total, with our orders and contributions, I mean we were able to raise over $2,000 to be able to donate to Rebuilding Cellars, which is the organization that's was founded to support the wine industry members in Ukraine who've been displaced by the war. So that's like restaurant owners, winery workers, vineyard workers, sommeliers, anybody who's been displaced by the war. So thank you again to, yeah, as Dan had mentioned, to anyone who was able to help support on
Mhm.
uh, that special project.
Yeah, and the one, I mean, the feedback that I've gotten, and I know you've gotten as well, guys, is on the wines is has been extremely overwhelmingly positive. Just I don't think anyone had tried Ukrainian wine, at least in our network, and then those wines have been extremely well received. We got so many rebound orders and everything else from that. So really,
Yeah.
Mhm.
really exciting to be able to get more of that stuff coming in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, working on it right now. So in touch with the CEO of Wines of Ukraine, so the national trade group, as well as she's also the CEO of Baykush Winery, which is one of the wines. They did the Artania wine and then the Telti Kuruk that we featured in as a special offer in during the offer. So, yeah, watch this space. I guess I'll say, we're working on it. There's definitely some distribution stuff that we're working on,
Mhm. Mhm.
and hopefully get some more. Um, yeah.
Ryan,
Um,
before we jump into this, did you want to talk
yeah,
a bit about that that special offer that
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the special offer wines, just to run through really quick, that we had was the Tantaca Blanco. So we featured the red. My camera's being a little blurry here, but is the white version here. So this was actually a also kind of a unique Shakali wine in that it's a still white wine. And it is made from 100% Honrabi Zuri, which is the white variety that is used to make the kind of like lighter spritzy style of Shakali. Um, but this style is still white, nice medium body to it. I love this kind of like golden, kind of like honeyed white cherries and like green kind of green pear sort of notes to it as well. For me, again, it had some Chenin Blanc notes. If anyone knows me and my palate, I love Chenin Blanc. So when I first tasted this wine, I was like, oh man, it really kind of has this sort of Vouvray kind of sort of tone to it. Took me back, to places that I really really enjoy. But the kind of that rocky mineral tone from that windswept Valle de Arrastaria really comes through. It has this kind of this sort of coastal energy that you don't get from inland France, something like that. So for me, loved being able to feature this wine. I think a lot of folks who got it really liked it as well. It really had a nice response to that too. So yeah, made again, by the same winemaker, Juan Hotelier, up there in the mountains. And then the other wine that we featured as a special offer was that's the 2023 Chateau de Vaux. It was a Pinot Noir from the Moselle. That was again really fun, unique wine because it's from the Moselle, the French side of the Moselle River, so in Lorraine, um, near the city of Metz, Metz. And that was a very important stop on the Via Regia as well, was the reason we selected that wine. But it's also pretty rare to get wines from Lorraine. You usually see a lot of stuff from Alsace, which is neighboring it to the east. But Lorraine is the French part of the Moselle River. And yeah, that Pinot Noir was, again, lovely, kind of Alsace Pinot, if you're familiar with that style, meaning that it has a little bit lighter color than a typical French Burgundy. So it's going to have a little bit more of that kind of, like blood orange, kind of cranberry cherry sort of tone. A little bit of this like, kind of earthy, savory edge to it. But not quite, not designed to be quite as a big, kind of regal a wine as a Burgundy might be. Designed to be a little bit more delicate, a little more elegant in style. And so really loved featuring that wine as well. And thank you to everybody who grabbed a bottle of that. And I hope everybody really, really enjoyed it because I know that I did as well. So, but yeah, thank you again for joining us for this club tasting and for being a member. If you'd like to order any additional quantities of the wines, as always, you can send us an email. And shipping is up to 8 additional bottles is free to California, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. $5 a bottle to all areas. So definitely follow us on social media if you're not already. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And then this recording will be posted to YouTube as well for sharing with all your friends who haven't experienced the joy of an Ancient Wine Guy's Zoom tasting yet.
any questions anybody has? I'm gonna go on
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
my
open it up. Oh, and a big
channel
hello to
at home.
Peter Castle too, right? One of our new members is on with us, I believe. Is
Yeah,
that right?
welcome,
Yeah,
Peter. Thanks for joining
Peter,
us. Yeah.
good to have you
Thank
aboard.
you guys. It was fantastic, and I greatly appreciated everyone's intake on everything. And I appreciated sort of your Rick Steves slash professorial Richard Engel take on things,
I
Dana.
love
That
it.
was fantastically awesome. And I appreciated your tasting note menagerie. Um, Ryan, that was phenomenal, as well as everyone else moderating and kind of bouncing in between. I love the order of it. I've been adoring the wines, and I'm looking forward to every new fun quarter. So thank you guys.
Fabulous,
Absolutely.
Peter.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're
Mhm.
definitely. I mean, we're always happy to have folks kind of discover and be excited about the next shipment. I mean, I always say this. We know we're doing the right thing because it's the wine club that I would want to be a member of. Every time we release a new club, we always say this when we're like reading through and joining the reviewing. We're like, wow, this is fun. This is actually really fun. And there's a lot of wine clubs that bottles show up and it's just kind of getting more wine. So again, we appreciate it so much that you appreciate what we do. So thank you.
And as Ryan said, right, reach out to us, email, social media. Some of us are a little older than others and better with the socials, but we will get back to you and hit us with ideas, questions. We're always here and always really delighted to continue this conversation and this journey with all of you. So, yeah, thanks across the board, everybody.
Well,
Thank you.
certainly. Any other questions? Anyone want to chime in? Otherwise, like I said, as we said, we appreciate all of you very, very much. And the next club is coming in, will be coming in September. But as always, if you need wine before then, don't ever hesitate to reach out. It's not hard for us to run down and be able to put together some packages and be able to ship things out. I'll be trying to put together a kind of a short list of what we have on hand from backstock kind of inventory, to be able to say, hey, here's what's currently available, and you can kind of pick and choose if you wanted to add on things here and there. So I'm trying to be a little more regular about that, so that folks know what from past clubs or something like that. That if you had past favorites that you can look back on. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably send out an email to club members with kind of a short form list of things that they can pick and choose from. So, but again, yeah, as always, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you, and
have
welcome
a
to
great
the
evening.
club.
Yes, welcome. Yeah. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that greatly.
have a great night, everybody. Yeah, you take care.
Good night.
Have a great
Night.
holiday weekend. Take care, all.